go to the despair code now? Now, you know what's funny is the despair code actually plays into this in a way. The despair code can either be seen as a great boon to conspiracy theorists, or the reason why you should be completely terrified. So, the despair code, once again, is a very, very obscure conspiracy theory. It took me even longer to find good information on this, than it did for the Lord of the Rings thing. Okay, so let me give you a brief overview. So, this is what the despair code is, roughly. The despair code is this. Everyone views reality as they see it. Everyone is basically, we are all going to experience reality on a different level. So I may experience reality on a level where I'm very happy and I think that the world is going great, and those things will start to be reflected in my life, and you may go, oh man, life is crappy and everything sucks, and you'll start to see things that reflect back in the world of your worldview. That's a very basic view of it, but that's not the despair code, but that's kind of the basic setup. So how you perceive the world is how the world works with you. People who are happy-go-lucky tend to, even when they stumble, they find a good way to deal with it. They kind of move on. People who are constantly grumpy and upset, when they bump into an obstacle, they see it as the world's worst thing because they already have a negative worldview. Now, what the despair code is it takes it a step further. So let's say, and this is an example on this post. So let's say you and I are walking through a dark alley. We're walking through separate dark alleys. Listen, I know that we've spent some time together, but I don't recommend walking through dark alleys with me, just like I don't recommend camping with me or having your car break down on a highway with me. But anyway, so I'm walking through a dark alley and I hear a noise behind me and I don't know what it is, and I turn around and I go, that's a cat. It's just a cat, and I keep walking, and that's a cat in the alley because my mind is perceiving it to be a cat. And if you're walking down the alley and you hear a noise and you go, oh, it's a monster. It's a monster. Because you're basically shifting your reality to how you believe. So it goes on to say, too, someone who has hallucinations, and if they think it is a 8-armed cat with 2 heads and they're each like snarling in German, because the wiring in their brain is messed up anyways, they are actually seeing that. Like, I'll turn around and won't see anything and go, that's a cat. You turn around and don't see anything and you go, that's a monster. Because we don't have enough information, we're creating that. Someone who has an actual hallucination, they're creating it and they can smell it and they can see it and they can hear it. So they've kind of broken through the coding. They actually are getting the stimulus that I don't see the cat, you don't see the monster. But anyways, so because we basically make our reality as we think it, it's kind of writing on the fly, we can create problems for ourselves. So you're thinking, okay, well, but why would that cause despair? Why would that cause problems? This is kind of, I think, the meat of the post, and this is what I wanted to really read. We are the universe. Everyone is the universe by himself. By talking and communicating, we exchange data with other universes. So I'm in one universe where it's just a cat, you're in another universe where it was a monster. And when we talk, we're facing each other, but we're actually conversing between realities because we can't really intrude on each other's realities. We're just basically reading each other's energy, and that's what we touch and feel and things like that. We live on the same planet, same place, but are still somehow separated by our body, but still connected through communication. Keeping that in mind, anything you imagine to be real is real. If you think you are followed, you are. If you believe there is a monster in your closet, there is. There moves something in the corner of your eye? Guess what? It wasn't only an imagination. Following these thoughts all the time will eventually make your mind fragile and paranoid until your mind dissolves into despair of all things that are out there to get you. These line of thoughts, the realization that everything is real and admitting this, is the despair code. Okay, so that's basically it. The despair code is the idea that every paranoid thought you have, every worry and fear is real. And once you start, you basically, you're regressing to a childlike state. Because when you're a child and you hear something under your bed, it's a monster. And then someone has to explain to you that monsters aren't real. But if you buy into the despair code, you hear that and you think it's a monster. It is a monster. It's a monster because your mind is creating that reality. Until you look under that bed to see that it's not a monster, it is a monster. The monster exists because you believe it exists. Because we can only experience the reality that we perceive, that we're reading. I can't perceive your reality. You can't perceive my reality. We can communicate between dimensions, but in the end, we're in our own reality. Here's the thing. I do think there's some truth to that. But I think they're looking at it from the wrong angle. I think it's basically The Secret turned evil. It's The Secret from Sauron, is what it is. It's this idea that if you think someone's coming up behind you with a knife, guess what? Someone's coming up behind you with a knife. And if you don't turn around and look and prove that he's not there, he's there. And eventually, you're not going to look. You're going to try to convince yourself that he's not there, and you're going to feel the blade go through the back and pop your lung. That's the despair code. However, I would say, I sit around. I don't sit around. I work hard. I mean, I know I'm kind of a bumbling fact. I have half the facts. I'm bumbling. I mispronounce a bunch of words. But I really enjoy doing this podcast. I really enjoy the format. I don't spend my free time just, dicking around. I'm looking for ways to market the podcast. I'm constantly talking up my podcast. I'm constantly going places, trying to build up a podcast audience. And while I'm doing that, I'm imagining my podcast audience growing. I'm taking action and I'm visualizing people discovering my podcast. And guess what? Every day people discover my podcast. Coincidence? Yeah, sure, possibly. I'm doing the legwork, but I'm visualizing people discovering my podcast and enjoying it and being like, oh, that's so funny. Like, it's this weird comedy podcast where he's kind of an idiot, but at the same time, he's really earnest. Ho, ho, ho. So, this is a good podcast. I'm going to rec it to my friends. I visualize myself losing weight. I tell myself I'm losing weight. I'm losing weight every day. I visualize these things. So you can hack the system. You can hack your reality. I truly believe that. I think might be some limitations to it, but I think you can. I think the despair code, in a sense, is real. If you are constantly negative and you're thinking there's a monster in the bushes, there's a monster in the bushes. Maybe there is a monster in the bushes. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a, Googleox. Maybe it's not like this giant furry beast, but there's something there that's drawing negative energy, putting negative energy on you, pulling good energy away. Maybe it is an actual monster. I don't know. But if you go through life and you're not imagining the monster, or you hear that noise and you go, it's just a cat. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a fairly paranoid person. If I hear something behind me, I don't automatically go, it's just a fluffy cat, just so some guy can take me to his rape dungeon. I am fairly paranoid as far as that goes. But I don't let that become the quote-unquote despair code. If I'm walking through the dark, my guard's up. If I'm in public, my guard's up. But when I'm sitting at home and I'm doing stuff or whatever, even if I start to get a negative thought, I try to break that negative cycle and put in positive thoughts. That's been a big part about this podcast. So let me just say, I know a lot of people tune in to kind of hear these weirder conspiracy theories, and I know I have a contingent of listeners who like this stuff, and I don't want them to be like, oh man, I know about the despair code, and I'm thinking there's a monster under my bed. It is what you make of it. The code, I think, does have a seed of truth to it, unlike that stupid Lord of the Rings thing. And I guess if you believe that Lord of the Rings and is your despair code and blah, 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 then maybe in your reality, the Lord of the Rings is a true story, but we're in my reality right now, and that's dumb. That's so stupid. But anyways, take those negative thoughts, turn them into positive thoughts. Be a positive thinker. You trust me. It will treat you well. I think that's going to be it for tonight. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.